Welcome back to Question Everything and Everyone. Today we have Stephanie Johnson. Stephanie, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I cannot complain. I was actually in the middle of a workout before we set this up, and so I was like, you know what, this is the perfect time to break. It's really hard. I'll come back to it later.
I guess we'll see how that goes. Well, you look very put together considering you were in the middle of a workout. I don't think I would pull it off quite as well.
Uh, it's the makeup and the lighting, and it's
Oh,
just from the waist
makeup.
up. Everything else is workout gear.
That's a good trick.
I'm sure it's one we're all using with Zoom right now.
Right. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I'm happy to be here and happy to, maybe absorb some good, knowledgeable tidbits from you
You
about
know what? I
how
was
to
thinking the
survive.
same thing. Uh,
I was gonna say I need to learn how to survive this pandemic and get through my job search.
and that you will. And I need to learn how to be a little more resilient. Even though it looks like it on the outside, I'm still human. I suffer from the same condition. So maybe we'll learn something from each other. Now, I know that we met through the Denver UX newbies. The pandemic got me hired,
Mhm.
meetup. And one thing that you mentioned to me was that being authentic and being yourself was something that stood out to you. Why did that resonate with you?
I think that was something that you brought up many times during that talk, and I think that's something I honestly, if I'm being real, I struggle with that. And I know, but I've come a long way in my lifetime to just, not worrying about what other people think and just really staying true to myself.
All right.
But that person in me that's also a people pleaser tends to creep up on me sometimes. And I know that in order to be truly happy, you do have to just be true to yourself. So it's something that I continue to strive for sure. But I think that now that aspect of life is coming up in the world of job searching. So I think that's something that drives it home even more, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's funny that you mentioned that it's something that happens in one area of life and then you find it creeping up in another. Um, so being yourself may have come easily in one area because you've learned to master that, and now you're back in that state of uncertainty, that imposter syndrome that says, how do I be myself in something I'm not experienced in yet, right? So you have a journey of going into UX. Can you tell me what brought you to UX?
Yeah, so it was last year when I learned about UX, and I was working in this program at not working in the program. I joined this 10-day program here in Denver called 10-10-10.
Huh?
And it was a program basically help entrepreneurs who were looking for their next business venture on the discovery phase of what to really make their business out of. And the program was focused on health. So I joined it thinking, maybe this is a good opportunity to network. So and it was 10 days, there were no breaks. Literally, I worked through the weekend with that program, and I was also pregnant and very nauseous at the time. But every day when I was done, I would come home really excited, and I felt like I was alive again. Like, wow, something is fun to me to do again, and I didn't think I had that. And turns out a couple of people in that program throughout those 10 days mentioned UX to me, and I had never really looked into it and didn't know what it was. I'd heard of it, but after a couple people mentioned it to me, I thought maybe I should like look it up or something and figure out what it is. So I did, and then I realized, oh my God, everything we did in 10-10-10 is the UX process. So, you know, for a whole year, I was researching and researching and looking into it more and more, and talking to UX professionals. And And then this year during the pandemic, I decided that I was going to quit my job in healthcare and pursue UX because it just felt like the right thing to do. So that's what brought me here. I think ultimately I've been kind of in limbo for a long time, and I knew I wanted a career change. I just couldn't figure out what it was until it just took me a while. So
Right. It it's kind of funny again that you mentioned. I see correlation with UX and everything. I call it the feedback whirlpool.
mhm.
Or it's like a giant feedback loop. So UX informs the decisions in my life because I see that there's a process that I didn't know there was a name to. And then when I learn more about that process and what the names are called and I apply it in my life gets better. And then as my life gets better, my UX process gets better because I actually got to apply the UX process, which is who are you? Where are you? Where do you want to be? How do we fill in that gap? Right.
Mhm.
And to go from healthcare to UX, you're creating an experience as a healthcare worker anyway. And could you talk to me a little bit about how, well, hello, there's the baby. um, about the skills that you think would be transferable from that field to UX.
Yeah, I actually just wrote out a little Medium article a few days ago, actually, that has been, the thoughts have been marinating in my head for a little while now, and I finally got it out. But basically, there's certain pillars that I think that I've realized throughout studying UX um, that also I realized I did in healthcare. So one of them is empathy, of course.
Right.
I, I was a diabetes educator for like 10 years. So if you don't have any empathy for people, you're not going to get anywhere. And that, of course, also is a huge part of it's a big part of UX. If you can't even try to understand where other people are coming from and what their problems are, big or small, you're not going to really help be very valuable in creating something that's going to solve that problem. Um, Another thing is setting expectations. A lot of what I did as a diabetes educator was when someone would come in, people would often expect me, I'm a dietitian. So people have, there's a bad reputation about dietitians out there that we just tell people what to eat. I mean, I'm certainly not one of those, but people would come in expecting that. And I would make that clear and upfront when I would meet with someone and say, this is what I can help you with. I'm not here to tell you what to eat. You can tell me if you ate a sheet full of brownies, and that's not something that I'm going to keep talking about. It's something that you're welcome to share with me, and I'm not going to judge you. In UX, when you're setting expectations with people, you need to make sure that they understand what you're able to do, much like when I was in healthcare. So yeah, I think it's important to just make sure you're transparent and clear no matter where you're working, really. I think it translates into many fields, not just healthcare and UX.
Right.
Um, and then another thing that I think of a lot is meeting people where they're at. Like I think about accessibility a lot when we're talking about UX. You obviously can't make someone see something if they're colorblind. They're not going to be able to see those subtle colors that you really think are beautiful. You have to meet them where they're at, and you have to it's people's right to be able to access the internet and utilize the resources there. So I think about that quite a bit. And then, and of course in healthcare, I think healthcare as a whole has a bad reputation for just telling people what to do, because I think a lot of people are fine with that, but there are people who are certainly not. And um, you do have to, if you're going to set a goal, you have to, maybe in your head you have this ideal thing for people to do, but they're not ready for that yet. So again, those pieces translate very well over to UX.
It's really, really insightful. Wow. Man, you never know what you're going to get out of these interviews. That's really good. So you sound like you know a lot about the UX field. Where are you picking up your education?
I went to General Assembly's UX immersive boot camp.
Nice.
And I, of course, like I said, I told you I did a lot of my own learning online as I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to pursue UX.
Mhm.
And, and I continue to learn as I work on my own projects since I've left the boot camp. So I think I'm not an expert by any means. It's an ongoing, continuing process of improvement.
Isn't that life in general?
Yeah. I know it's everything, right?
That's seriously, it's all interconnected. Do you find that your your pursuit on your own to find knowledge is adding value to what you got in boot camp? Do you feel like it complements it, or do you feel like you prefer one over the other?
I think it's complementary. The boot camp was extremely difficult. I was working so many hours a week, more than I did when I had a full-time job, much more than when I had a full-time job. And it probably even harder than when I went to grad school, to be honest. Um, but because it was so fast-paced and such a short time frame, it was very intense, but we couldn't get to the depth that we would otherwise. So I think that my outside learning on my own is complementary to that. It's building on that foundation.
That's good. Cool. And you said you were pregnant when you first found out about UX.
Yes.
I can't even relate to that one. So I can imagine that there is someone out there that is breaking into UX that feels like that might be an issue. Could you speak to that hope for those women?
um, yeah, I think that when you, regardless of what's going on in your life, if you want something bad enough, you're just going to do it. And I think that's true for, I mean, for me at least. I know myself, and I know that if I want something bad enough, I'm gonna go for it. I'm very gung ho when I set my mind on a goal. So I guess there's a level of stubbornness in that as well.
Oh, and stubbornness can serve us. Actually, all things that we consider character defects are just character assets on steroids.
You're very optimistic, I think, with your outlook on these things.
It comes from a very negative view on life before, and knowing where I could go if I'm not. So it's just a conscious effort to course correct my thought process,
Hmm.
which I feel like UX has taught me a different way to approach my life. Where, yes, I have empathy for others and creating experiences for them, but there has to be that level of self empathy to create the experience that I want for my life as well. And so there's times where I feel like giving up, or I feel like, I don't want to do this workout right now, or I don't really feel like doing research because I don't want to put together all the data pieces. And I have to try the positive self talk, or, just focus on the moment. What am I doing in that moment? Because I can get lost in my head, analysis paralysis, won't be moving. And before you know it, hours have gone by and I haven't done anything.
Hmm.
So that's where the positive mindset comes from for me.
What do you tell yourself in that moment? Because I think it also takes it takes a lot of self-awareness and recognition of the fact that you're going down a bad path in your head.
Mm.
So what helps, like, turn that on for you?
What you focus on grows. That's the number one thing that pops into my head, is that I have this energy, and if I use it to think good thoughts, good things happen. Same amount of energy to think bad thoughts or highlight what's not going right or what's wrong will get the same effect in the opposite direction. Plus, I have this really cool picture that my wife bought me that says, if you can imagine it, you can dream it. dream it, and you can become it. And it reminds me to have the thoughts of what I want rather than what I don't want, because I've seen it enough times to know that if I just talk about not feeling well, right, and then not completing something, then I'm in the knots and I'm focused on what not to do and what I don't want. And I can't get out of that until I focus on what I want or change that direction. It does take a lot of self awareness. And my story is one of coming from the world of drugs and alcohol abuse to recovery. There's an awareness that comes with recovery, that staying in the moment just for today, being aware of the thoughts that we have and changing that pattern, which UX has helped to make a lot better, because now there's a number of processes that I can use, and I know that what I'm doing actually makes sense. So when I'm what I used to call nosy is actually research, and trying to create something different based on testing is not trial and error anymore. It's research and strategy and iteration and prototyping and testing. there's there's just little nuggets along the way that, like I said, they help my work, but then help my life because the application helps with. I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense right now.
It
Yeah.
is making sense. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that the UX, I mean, when you say that you've applied it to your life, I think about that a lot, and how, now that I'm in UX, I can see it everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that you can apply it to anything, and it's so applicable to everyone. And it's funny because a lot of people, when they ask, what do you do? "Oh, I'm a UX designer." What is that? And I'm like, well, if only, if you have 10 minutes, I could explain the whole gamut of UX to you.
You've got it down to 10 minutes.
No. Actually, I haven't ever timed myself, but I don't think it would take too long.
Yeah. I like to explain it like, where do you like to shop? When you think online thinking, what do you think about? Or online shopping, what do you think about? And they're like, Amazon, Walmart. I'm like, there's a reason you think that. I'm the reason. I'm just kidding. That's not what I say. I say that I'm responsible for the way you feel using an app from the time you think about completing the task to the time you actually complete that task.
Hmm.
There's there's a science behind why you click on what you do and why something feels better than the other, like why one website is just more efficient than the other. And it could
Mhm.
just be the simple placement of a button or the language on that button. But that's what I'm in charge of doing. And like you were saying earlier, having to set those expectations of what we do and we don't do. I love that illustration of UX versus UI where the ketchup bottle with the squeeze ketchup bottle is UX. The glass ketchup bottle is UI, right? The experience
Yeah.
sucks, but it looks pretty. It may not be as pretty as a squeeze bottle, but the experience is amazing most
Right.
times.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy a lot. I haven't heard that one yet.
Really?
No.
I'm just, I guess I'm into memes. And so I was looking up UX memes one time and that one came up. There was
Uh,
also the pretty designed pathway and it says UI. And then the dirt road that's the shortcut to where they want to go, going around the gate, and that's UX or that's design,
I like that one too.
right?
Yeah.
It's just that subtle difference between what we think people want and what they actually want.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. I think I'm definitely not a I'm not as strong of a visual designer. I'm more like to the point, and I like efficiency and getting people to do what they need to do and then get out of it, because who wants to be banging their heads against a wall trying to figure something out for a long time? So I like those. I like that dirt path and the squeeze ketchup bottle quite a bit. I'm like, I'll just say, oh, I'm like the squeezable ketchup bottle versus the glass ketchup bottle.
I remember back in boot camp, I had one more, and I take things way left sometimes. I said so to the teacher, so UI is like toilet paper and UX is the reason it's not brown. And he stopped for a minute and he's like, not quite what I was thinking, but I see what you did there. And I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah.
But it's just I'm weird.
Wow.
So the the healthcare, I want to go back to that for a second.
Yeah.
Now, you said the pandemic, you quit your job and wanted to explore UX.
Mhm.
Was the timeline around the time they started shutting things down and things started getting crazier in the hospitals and, shutdowns and pandemic virus?
It well, I work in an outpatient, like a community health center, or I worked in a community health center. I keep saying I still work there. Uh, so it started in March, and then I quit in August.
Oh,
So the shutdowns and everything happened well before that, and I think that my job changed a lot
mm,
during that time, and I think the glaring issues that I knew were glaring for the last few years at my work were even more staring me in the face. And so ultimately, it was just trying to time things out properly for my husband and I so that I could quit my job at the right time and then have enough time to prepare. Um, and yeah, and then just get started at a time that we felt like we could manage with having a little one at home.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of little one at home, I have 5 kids myself, but they're all much older. So 16, between the ages of 16 and 22.
Oh, so they can go to the bathroom themselves.
Yes, and they don't bother you when you're in the bathroom. At least most times not.
That sounds nice. Mine is starting to crawl. She knocked on the door while I was in there, and then I was about done, so I opened it up, and then she was like running away. She was just cracking up. She's only one, and I'm like, where do you get? How did you learn this?
That's
What a
hilarious.
funny little personality. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, speaking of personality, man, you have one?
yeah, just one.
Okay, so the five, trying to parent with five different personalities is probably the toughest challenge I've ever faced. But learning UX and the empathy that comes with, the whole design process, trying that in parenting actually really helps.
Huh.
It's funny. It's like, we're the point where psychology, art, and science meet. And so when we apply that to our lives, there's some pretty beautiful processes that we can use. What I was going to say is, how do you find time in parenting to, like, what is your process like when it comes to job searching? Is there a set time that you apply? How do you approach the job search?
That's a that's a pain point right now. So you are hitting the nail on the head. So I'm lucky that we're still able to send our daughter to daycare. So she goes 3 days a week. The other 2 days of the week, my husband works at a hospital, so his shifts are kind of funny, but he's off every Thursday and Friday. So he primarily takes care of her, though with all of us being at home, the line is a little blurry. So sometimes I'm asked to just watch her for 15 minutes, and then I get caught off guard, and sometimes I'm in a zone and then I get interrupted or I hear screaming and crying. So it's definitely challenging. I'm trying to not be so hard on myself, because
Mm,
I think I am, especially when it comes to how productive I feel, not how productive I am.
yeah.
Sometimes I am productive and then I don't feel productive, and it takes me, I need to sit back and look and see what I've actually done. So I'm trying to be like quote unquote gentle with myself when it comes to all of this. At least I have a few days a week where I'm kind of on my own and I can, hopefully get more done those days, but it's still a balance and definitely challenging trying to figure that out right now.
Right, right. And I love that you said you're trying to be gentle with yourself, because my next question was going to be, do you ever take a second to either write down those three things that you must get done that day, or reflect at the end of the day of what you've actually done? Because I know at times I'll feel unproductive.
Mhm.
And when I look back and I write down all the things that I've done throughout the day and the week, I'm like, man, I'm winning. No wonder I'm so exhausted. Like, I'm doing a lot. I don't consider a lot of the stuff that I do productive because it's not what I think I should be doing,
Mhm.
or it's not as good as I know it could be. And so I just write it off. But when you write it all down, it takes it from up in our heads, swirling around, seeming a lot bigger or a lot smaller than it actually is, to reality. It's right there in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely I have a journal that a colleague of mine created. It's kind of his side business. And so one of the things that you write down every day is the three most important things that you need to accomplish towards your goal. So I have been doing that. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so it's nice because not only it takes away the pressure of getting this really big list done, but it helps you prioritize what you should focus your time on in order to help your it helps you focus more. So because the old me would certainly just make a list of 20 things and I'm like, oh crap, I didn't get all 20 things done today, what a loser I am.
That self-talk, man, it's important. We tend to underestimate what we can do in a year and overestimate what we can do in a day. I feel like I'm saying that wrong.
No,
Overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. So making that list of 20 things and then beating ourselves up is counterproductive. But making a list of 1,000 things, or not thinking that we can get enough done in that year, it's still counterproductive. But that three things a day, at the end of the year, you've done 1,000 things. If you do three things every day, close to
Mhm.
1,000 things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe over 1,000. I don't know. What's
Yeah.
365 times three? UX, not math.
I am not good at I'm not a good person to fit that Asian stereotype of being good at math. So I am really careful.
It's so funny that you say that. I have a few Asian friends that that's their thing. They say, I'm Asian, but I don't fit the stereotype.
I
It's
do
okay.
not.
I totally understand being something and not fitting the stereotype.
But there are the stereotypes for a reason, right?
They are, and most times they are true. And I mean, we can laugh about it, but I think I feel like it's only in America because I grew up in Europe. So when I came back here, I didn't know I was black until I moved to America. Because over there, we only asked where people were from or what their nationality was, so we knew what language we needed to speak to them.
Mm,
But it didn't matter what the color of our skin or where we were from, except for what language do we need to speak to you? How do we need to relate to you?
gosh,
Uh,
that's so interesting to me. Where did you grow up?
Montesson in France. It was about, I want to say, 6 miles west of Paris,
Okay. Wow.
or east. I just know that through this field around the corner from my house, you can look and you can see the Eiffel Tower. It was really small.
Oh
You
my
could
God,
see it when it was lit up,
that's
and
amazing.
it
Why
was
did you go
beautiful.
here?
American Airlines brat. So my mom worked for American Airlines. She had a project over there. Started with 2 years, extended to. She was a computer programmer,
Mm,
so she wrote machine language back in the day before all this stuff was really cool.
God.
When you'd lose your mind doing it, and it got extended another 2 years, the third time. But I was a really bad kid, which actually ended up paying off. I learned French because I got kicked out of the American School of Paris. And so I had to go to the French school around the corner. Um, so midway through her third assignment, She had to get it cut short and move to Dallas Fort Worth, and here we are.
Okay.
25 years later.
That is amazing. What a cool experience to say grew up in another country. And that I've always suspected, I mean, I've traveled overseas and stuff, but I totally feel that like lack of it's not a lack of, but it's a different feel when there's when you're in a multicultural city. It doesn't feel the same as it does here.
Right.
Um, there isn't that like, deep, long history there that continues to persist.
Yes.
So that's really validating that you said what I suspected.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad I could give you validation on that one.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like there's another question here. It crossed my mind. The P word, the dreaded P word.
P word.
Every UX designer's worst nightmare. You need it to apply.
Portfolio.
How's yours coming along?
Mine is always a work in progress, but I think that every designer says that. Because, when is it ever really done? You don't have a finish line, and you continue to iterate on it. I am putting up my fourth project.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
it's still a work in progress. And so, but I put the like general premise of it on my portfolio. So I just want to make sure that if anybody peeks at it, they can see that I'm working on something and I'm not just like, laying in a pile of garbage somewhere, just sorry about my job search.
Yes.
uh, so yeah, I'll keep working on it. I think there's definitely room for improvement, and I think I'm looking to actually get some feedback on it, just so that I can get a feel for what's probably like better practice or more readable and desirable to hiring managers out there.
Okay. Okay. So I've never
Yes.
done this before, but there's a first time for everything. Are you open to sharing your screen and maybe, or I can share my screen since I
Oh,
gotta go through
yeah,
permissions and stuff.
sure.
Kind of take a look at it?
Yeah, go ahead. It's stephaniejohnsonux.com.
Okay, let's do that. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
I don't know. I mean, it's already out for the world to see, so I guess I can't be too nervous. But I was actually just poking around with it I was messing around last night. So,
Ooh, I like what I see already. Okay, let's go over. Um, okay, can you see my screen?
here it is. Yes.
You're muted. Popular
Oh,
Zoom quotes. Can you see my screen? Can anyone hear me? You're muted. Your camera's still on. I like. Stephanie Johnson. I'm a UX designer based in Denver, Colorado. I believe in the power of functional design and its ability to fuel our everyday lives. I make things that are easy to use and practical. I like that. It's informative. Can you walk me through your portfolio?
yeah. So that's a picture of Vale
Okay.
that I took while on a beautiful hike one day.
Wow.
And if you scroll down, you already kind of went there, but you can see. So this is my current project right now, impact on work life with the pandemic.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of in the beginning stages of that, but I'm getting some really good insights from my research. And then my other project here, for a mobile experience for a startup called Addie. It's a mental health focused social platform.
Okay.
And so these designs are actually going to be launched in spring of next year
Oh,
sometime. Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. That was a really great project to work on. Really loved it. And then I did down below a Medium app concept project. So it was a redesign of Medium. And it's funny because while I was working on this project, they actually implemented what I was designing. So it was very validating.
wow. So you saw the vision and it happened.
And it actually happened. So yeah, that's actually really cool. It was a fun experience to see that come to life, even
Wow.
though I didn't really contribute to that. And then you can see below I had an e-commerce project there.
Okay.
And then in my about me section, I just have a little blurb about, it's up in the right hand corner,
Oh, okay.
about
Perfect. You're there.
me. Yep.
About me.
And yep, it's my blurb about why I wanted to move into UX and my contact information and all that good stuff.
Ooh. So I'm hungry. So the first thing that popped up to me is what I'm cooking. Is that what I think it is?
Yes, that's my little Instagram account where I just
Oh,
started that so that I could see some inspiration for what to make for dinner, meal planning and stuff. And then I started to take my own pictures.
yeah.
And so I make like all kinds of stuff. And sometimes I remember to take pictures
Right before it's all gone.
or I start eating it, right?
Yes, yes. And then what I'm writing, you do, I heard you said something about Medium articles.
Yeah, I've just got a few so far, but I'd like to write more. So that's my Medium page.
You know what? I feel like I read one of yours once.
Oh,
I'm thinking
well,
about it. Um, I want to say it was this one.
oh, okay. Yeah, I wrote that one a couple months ago.
Oh, it's crazy.
Oh,
Now,
fun.
I do the roundabout Medium. I used to pay for Medium every month, which is it's not expensive, but I find that you get overwhelmed with all the articles that they send you and then you don't read because there's so much to choose from.
Hmm.
So I do the whole thing where I go to an incognito page and read from an incognito page. So I probably would have clapped if I was signed into my account for it.
Ah, yes, that was a pain point I identified during my Medium concept projects.
Right? The,
Having to pay. Hmm.
mhm. Which I mean, it's cool. You're supporting other people, but money's a sensitive subject.
Yeah, it is. And I think there's other ways to possibly support writers out there because some of the content is really good. So that was one of the things we talked about during that project was how do we find other monetization options so that people aren't hit with an annoying paywall when they're trying to read something.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I am not reading through thoroughly, but just looking, I can tell you that if I was a hiring manager, it looks clear, clean, and you're speaking to your process. It's not just, hey, look at these screens I did. There's the
Yeah.
process. I love
Yeah,
that.
that's the point, right? You want to show your process. I will say I am more research focused. I think that's just what comes more naturally to me. So I think I go into more detail on that because I had a heavy hand in that, especially in this project, um, as well as my other ones.
Right, right. So I'll stop the share for now. So far, from what I see, you're doing great.
Hmm.
Um, just maybe the air came on. I just like this. There's this feedback. Um, where do you find that you run into the biggest problem on your job search?
So I think the biggest problem for me right now is just getting through to talk to someone. It's those applicant tracking systems.
Mm.
I'm doing my best to match up everything and do what I need to do to get in. And it's worked for, I mean, at least I'm only about a month into my job search, but
Okay.
there was a company that I thought I had a lead on, and I had to talk with the recruiter, and she was passing everything along. She said, "Oh, by maybe the latest, the early that week after Thanksgiving, you'll probably hear something." She gave me an outline of what the process would look like. And so I waited because I figured there was a holiday, and then I never heard back. I had to email 2 times just to try to get an update.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so it's like you think you're getting somewhere and then you don't get anywhere. And I think that's frustrating because I think what frustrated me about that one was that she said she would let me know either way, and I did not. I had to go and outreach her to get an answer. So, and that's frustrating. And yeah, the applicant tracking system I think is really, I know that HR people and all that, they have a lot of resumes to look through, and I know that the landscape is really competitive for UX, but at the same time I don't think that's a I I don't think it's the only kind of process that you can use to try to weed out candidates.
Right.
It's definitely it's definitely hard, and it's hard on your ego and your just overall self-esteem, just to keep getting rejected or not hearing anything and getting ghosted. So,
Right.
um,
Actually, what I know we talked about this in the panel, but the thing that really took it over the top for me, like we were saying, being yourself, when I was trying to fit into the box with the applicant tracking system and all that, and trying to go the linear process of let me apply. Oh, I don't have experience, but I can't get the job without experience, but I need the job to get experience. That
yeah,
whole headache, it wasn't working for me. When I vented about this very thing you're talking about with, oh, they need your last four of your social, they need your resume, your LinkedIn, your portfolio, all of this yesterday, your salary requirements, and you get all to them and ghost, nothing.
mhm,
And I found out from a lady that I did an interview with a few months ago, Lee Andrews. She is a career coach. And she told me to save myself a lot of time, I could just ask the recruiter when they call me, is this for a VMS or an MSP? Vendor management system, or I can't remember what MSP stands for, but basically they're just trying to fill a database. So they need all your information, but they're not doing it to really get you a job. They're just doing it to fill the database so that they can basically sell jobs to people or sell people to companies.
hmm,
It's not a genuine effort to get people in the door. That post went viral, 28,000 views in a matter of days. And there's so many comments, so many recruiters that have worked with me and that haven't worked with me that were reaching out apologizing
hmm,
because they're aware that the recruiting industry looks really bad right now because of the way they do things. But there are a couple companies with integrity that try to uphold that human connection, that empathy, with really working with people to find positions. And Aquient and vitamin T were that for me. They don't have vitamin T or Aquient, I don't think, in Colorado, but the way they go about it is they connect you with someone that's been in the field for a number of years, senior level, 15 years plus, and those people interview you to find out what qualities you possess, and they write something about you so that when they do position you for a, a position, it's the right position for you. They're not just trying to throw you somewhere so that they can get the sale. They actually care. And that
yeah,
was one thing that blew my mind. But what I found was that in that authenticity and being myself, the jobs will come through relationship quicker than they'll come through an applicant tracking system or applying. And
yeah,
that could go for any field that you're trying to break into, be it medical, restaurant, whatever. Life is built on relationship. And there's only one Stephanie Johnson. There's only one Gregory Rutledge. If we are trying to be what we think they need us to be to get in, we're robbing the world of who we really are and what we have to offer.
Mm.
So I think honestly, you are weeks away. It feels as if you're weeks away from landing a position. And I think the only thing you have to do is keep going. I The one thing I will say is the holy trinity of applications. Your resume, your LinkedIn, and your portfolio all have to line up.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you know that. I mean, I talked to a lot of different juniors, and some of them just aren't on the same level. But you seem like you're right there. It's not like you need to go too far. You're just trying to keep the hope on the journey. Am I hitting the nail on the head there?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part is that I knew that I knew what I was getting myself into. I thought about this thoroughly. I have a mouth to feed and then a mortgage and all that stuff. So it's not like I took this very lightly, and my husband didn't either when he agreed that I could do this. So yeah, I knew that it would be a long process, and I've heard, expect it to take so many months to get a job. And I think that I knew I would be kind of hitting this point, and I didn't hit it until now that I was starting to really, feel down. And I think I want to maintain that hope and keep that positivity that I've been somehow magically able to hold up for like a month. I'm surprised I actually got this far without hitting the wall already, which I should call a success.
That's impressive.
But I need to keep that hope going, because I think that's what gets in my way more than anything else.
I've got I've got a phrase for you. I've got a saying that was given to me in my lowest point when I was about to give up.
Okay.
One of my mentors, in the middle of me having a breakdown, he said, "You know what? You're industrious. You know how to find work. You know how to find a job. You know how to feed your family. You're resilient. Just keep going. Somebody's going to mess up and hire you." That's
Uh,
exactly what I did. In the middle of having a breakdown, I just started laughing because I was like, you know, that's an interesting way to look at it, but it's true. Somebody's going to mess up and hire me, and then I'll get to prove myself.
mm,
And that's basically what happened. I I did a visualization exercise of what it would feel like to get the job, what it would feel like to get the call. And like, I just kept going with what I want to feel about this situation. And it turned into a reality eventually because now I'm acting from a place of where I want to be rather than where I don't want to be or what I don't want to feel. So it's
mm.
it kind of, what's that future self act like, think like? How do they talk? How do they walk? Embodying that so that you kind of move closer to that.
So you did that whole, it sounds like manifesting your future.
Yes. And I thought I was crazy for it. I thought it was crazy when I've heard of the concept at first, but it's true. It works. I mean, 97% of our life are thoughts, words, and actions.
Mhm,
And whether you're going in the positive or the negative direction, right?
mhm. Maybe I should go read a book on that, because I think so. When I was doing my GA course, one of the instructors actually talked about manifesting. Oh my God, the Motivation Manifesto. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. One of my instructors kept talking about manifesting, um, and I was like, that is such BS. What a load of crap. I don't know
Right.
what to make of it, but it keeps popping. I keep thinking about manifesting. I'm taking my dog for a walk and I'm like, I need to manifest whatever that means. Like, I need to manifest my future and somehow figure out how to do that. Like, but yeah, I'm gonna read that book.
So there's a lot of them out there. The concept is the same. It's, what are you thinking? What are you saying? What are you doing? It's really simple.
Okay.
Life is simple. We just make it complicated.
Yeah.
right? Simple, not easy. So the premise of it, the basic thought behind manifestation, if you want to see manifestation in action, right? Think of a time where you really, really wanted something to happen. It's all you could think about. And in those thoughts, you start acting in that direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it happens, whether it's good or bad. The next
Yeah.
time, now that you're going to be aware of it now, the next time you catch yourself in a thinking pattern and you notice that that thinking pattern leads you to this every time, you'll
Mm-hmm.
start changing that thinking pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does sound like a load of crap until you try it and you get the results, and then you're like, there's no freaking way that that just worked. So,
I will definitely try that. I'm thinking about when I ran a half. I used to be like a runner a while ago, and I haven't run a mile since it's been like 3 years now. But I thought I'm going to run my first half marathon, and I kept, what you were saying is true. I started a run, I ran a mile, then I ran two, and then I was able to run three, and then I would run 5 and 7 like it was nothing. And then I crossed that finish line and I got my medal and I did it.
that is manifestation at its best.
Hmm. Yeah.
This has been an awesome interview. I never know what's going to come of these. This is my fourth one. I have some more coming and I'm going to be doing editing. I don't feel like anything needs to be cut out of this one, which is amazing. Um, so this will be up soon. I want to I want to give you an opportunity. If a hiring manager sees this, what would you want them to know?
I want them to know that I am ready to put in the work. This is my second career, and it doesn't mean I'm going to lay down and try to get by without putting in the work. I'm motivated. I always have been, and I'm approaching things the same way my 22-year-old self would, and in work, that is. And I'm excited to contribute to the world of UX, and I'm excited what my perspective can bring because I know mine is unique. Um and I yeah, I'm just ready to get out there and contribute to the world and help make people's lives better through design, which is crazy to say because I never thought I would say something like that, but I know that it's true. Um yeah, I that's all I got, I guess.
Hire her. Hire her. No, that's awesome. If I had the job to give you for UX, I would be interviewing. So I have two questions I'm going to leave us with, and then I will give you the rest of your Sunday back.
Okay.
What is the question that was asked to you that stumped you and that has had you thinking ever since it was asked?
So I keep thinking about interview questions, and um, I keep thinking about what are your greatest weaknesses, and I'm stumped by it constantly because I don't know how to properly answer that.
Mm.
I'm all about being honest. I say what I'm thinking, and I mean what I say. So, yeah, what is your greatest weakness? And I'm wondering what stumps me about it is what are they getting out of that question? Is it so that they can, maybe possibly put up a red flag or, I don't know, like, not really sure what to do with that or where they go with it, but that one's a that one's a head scratcher for sure.
That is that, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
That one is that one is even more broad and even more confusing because I'm like, what do I tell them about myself? Do I tell them what I made for dinner last night? Do I tell them where I where I grew up? Do I tell them where I lived in the last 10 years? Like,
Right. There's so much to tell you. Where do I start?
yeah.
Yeah. So I learned, I don't remember where I read this or where I heard this or who told me, but these questions are geared towards finding out how you process things, how honest you are. Everyone's going to say my greatest weakness is I love too much, or I work too hard. And that's the red flag. The honest one is I tend to overthink things. So I find myself having to do XYZ to get myself out of that. And I'm still a work in progress. They just want to know, like you said, you're honest. How honest are you going to be with, and how self aware you are about your own weaknesses?
Mhm.
They want to know that you acknowledge that you have weaknesses, no matter what they are, right? At
Mhm.
least in the career. And then when they ask about, tell us a little bit about yourself, obviously it's about the career journey. So you have to focus in on, it's broad, but let's focus in on our career journey and how it's transitioning into where we want to go here. And then with the, uh, tell us about your greatest weakness. What's your greatest weakness in the workplace? I mean, I don't know what yours would be, but it's just being honest about that. The fact that you're aware of it and that you have a system or some plan to get over it, because then that tells them that you're goal oriented, you're self aware, you try to work harder at it.
Yeah.
And the way you answer it, also your body language. Are you downtrodden? Are you ashamed? Or are you fully aware, confident? This is what I struggle with. I know, I tend to speak what's on my mind. So every now and then I might have to shut up. So if you see me being quiet, that's why, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I know all that. It's got to be all job related.
Yeah, it's just weird because we don't really think about our jobs, at least not after work hours.
Right. Hopefully not.
Hopefully. So, my last question, and then we will conclude the show.
Okay.
What is one question that you think everyone should be asking themselves?
I think that everyone should be asking themselves, does this help make the world better, what I'm doing right now? Does this help someone, or does it add value to my day? I think about that a lot when I'm on social media or something. Does this add value to my day?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is beautiful. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
StephanieJohnsonUX.com. This is some talent that you need on your team. She's in Colorado, but that's not a limit to anyone else anywhere else in the world. Everything is virtual now. Give Stephanie a chance. With that, continue questioning everything, and we will see y'all next time. Oh, you want to pose for a picture for our thumbnail?
Okay, sure.
All right. I'll get a screenshot of that.